Hi there, my name is Ash Broadway, and I had the chance to sit down with our Chief Information Officer, Colin Boyan, about our recent ISO accreditation. We uncovered some pretty interesting stuff, so take a look at what we chatted through. So, Cole, let's start with the basics. What is ISO accreditation?
Okay, so ISO accreditation, or the standard that we're accredited to, or that we'll be certified to, is called ISO 27001. And that is all about companies' ability to manage their information security policies, processes, and it's really about protecting data, protecting the access to that data, and protecting the integrity of that data. And the whole standard, and the great thing about the standard is that there's an element to it, which is all about continuous improvement of those processes and practices. So that's a very important part for us.
Really holding you accountable there.
Absolutely. And that is the thing with the standard. Being an international standard, we are actually accountable for many of the practices, the processes that we have in place, and also the evidence that we collect to show that we're actually conforming with our own policies and practices. Because ISO is much about us saying, this is the way that we will do the things that are internationally recognized, and then following up and actually doing those things.
And tell me, why did CVCheck choose to become ISO accredited?
Yeah, it's a great question. We had been on the path of continuous improvement for information security for a number of years. And the primary driver for that is the information that we hold is very important to the individuals who provide it to us, and it can be very sensitive for them, in terms of their career and personal information. So we have an obligation to all of our stakeholders, and the individuals who are being screened are one of those. But also we've got other stakeholders, our shareholders, all of the staff at CVCheck have a right to know that in the practice and performance of their duties, they're not putting someone's information at risk. So we've been going down that, enhanced information security path for quite some time. External events have, I guess, to an extent, overtaken us with the awareness now that everybody has around cybersecurity because of the actions of state actors from countries I won't name, but also the high-profile hacks and breaches that have occurred over the last 12 months. So I think that's meant that we are protecting our data better, but also the certification aspect of ISO 27001 is important, because we can take all of these measures and be confident in and of ourselves that we are protecting the data and that privacy and security are being maintained. The standard is about letting our customers know, and the individuals who are entrusting us with that information, that we are actually accountable to an external standard.
Of course.
That somebody who is independent of CVCheck has reviewed all the practices and systems that we've got in place, and they have endorsed the fact that we are meeting the standard. So it's not just about the security, but it's as much, I suppose, being secure, but also being seen to be secure.
Definitely. And that actually touches really nicely on the next question, which is, what does the process actually entail? So what does it take to become ISO accredited?
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and probably a lot more than we thought when we started it, which is, it's probably good that we didn't know. But the standard itself has a very well-documented list of all the various ways in which you should control risk. So the standard itself is about go in and assess your own risk using the guidelines that the standard gives you. Give yourself a rating on the likelihood of those risks to occur and the impact if they did occur, and then put practices in place that help to mitigate, avoid, or totally eliminate any of those risks, should they occur, or to stop them from occurring. And that's really what the standard's all about. So the very first part of ISO 27001 is do a risk assessment on your business. what are the practices? What kind of information do you hold? Whose information are we protecting, and who would be affected if there is an information breach? And then you go through all of the various standards and practices. The standards dictate what things should be in your information security policy. They don't necessarily dictate the wording or the practices that you might choose to mitigate those risks. But I think there's 144 controls, and we have to assess our systems and our business and decide which of those apply. And we got away with one. So we've got 143 of the 144 apply to us. And so the last year really has been a process of assessing the risks, deciding and defining our policies, communicating all of that inside of the business, because it's not much use having these practices and having these policies if nobody in the business knows about it. So it's a top-down approach for all of that.
And while you are on that, I actually would like to explore that a little more. So what is required from the CVCheck team to ensure that we remain accredited? So there obviously is a culture of information security awareness. How do we commit to that and build on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that is great about ISO 27001 is it recognizes and in fact requires the top-down buy-in and endorsement from your management team. So a part of the standard is actually, how do you ensure that the company applies the resources that are required to do this well? Right, so that is actually something that we have to document and demonstrate. And then what do we do and how do we communicate both upwards to our management group, so the board and all of the executives? How do they know what's going on? How do they know what the status of our system is? What things are working, which things are maybe not working or can be improved? And then what do we do right across our organization so that everybody whose practices and whose job contributes to our security status know what they need to do, know what evidence we need to collect, know when they need to do everything. And then the last element to all of that, of course, is there's an ongoing commitment to training and awareness processes right across the business. So every single person who joins CVCheck or who was lucky enough to be at CVCheck when we began this ISO journey have all undergone training that is specific to the way that we do things, our application of the standard, what our policies are, and the implications or the challenges that not following those processes will bring to them and to the company. And it's very important that we're aware of that whole spectrum of the effects of this information security management system right across the business.
Of course. A lot of company buy-in and a lot of communication, probably over communication actually, with particularly the starting months.
Oh, absolutely.
Cole, last question. Tell us what the accreditation means for our business and for our customers moving forward.
So there's a few things. I guess the most obvious one is that there are requirements from particular customers, and I'm thinking especially here, the people who deem their information to be the most at risk or the most sensitive, and we're talking defence, government contractors, government departments. There's a standard that you need to meet as a supplier, and one of those requirements is usually in those circles to have a security accreditation. And part of that process is, external penetration testing. So we have, security experts who look at our systems, who run very standard tests across our platforms, but also review the architecture of our systems. And that gives those kind of customers the confidence that they can, deal with us in a way. And what the standard demonstrates is that they can then demonstrate to their internal stakeholders that their supply chains are secure and can be relied upon. So that's the first element. And I guess the other one is, we've got over 20,000 commercial customers and probably 1 million individuals whose information has been collected or who hold accounts at CVCheck. So every single one of those customers, even if they're not at that government certification level, or even if they don't have a really in-depth understanding of cybersecurity, every single one of those customers and the people who they are screening benefit from our increased security stature. So it's a really important initiative for us, and it covers us right across, the scope of this project was right across all of CVCheck's operations. So that means everything from the sales team to marketing to the way in which we build and deploy our software to our operations process and our executive and board functions. Every single element in that business, in our business, has been passed through the ISO lens to make sure that it complies. So that should give our customers a great deal of confidence that we can protect their information, that it's onshore, that it's safe, and that it remains also accurate, which is a really important point.
Ultimately, it's peace of mind.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, they can, and they probably won't think about it consciously very much. But once they've ticked that box, that is something that they don't have to worry about, and they don't have to be concerned that their data is at risk. Sure. They can make sure that they can get on with focusing on the thing that they are doing and let us get on with managing data.
Exactly. Well, Cole, thank you so much for your time. That was the basics that we wanted to cover off, and we look forward to checking in with you again in a couple of months and getting an update on how it's all going.
Absolutely. Been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.